Adding, there's just some words and things that you need to know about, so we'll see if we can cover this. When you go to add numbers together, the numbers in the problem have a name, which you've had before in elementary school. It's just a matter of, can you remember them after the summer went by? When you get an answer, the answer has a name. I'm sure you've heard that too. It's just a matter of whether you can retrieve it. Does anybody remember what the numbers are that called when you add them together, or what the answer is called after you get them?
Is the answer called the sum?
It is. And there's two words that sound like sum. Do you know how to spell the word sum that you mean?
For the answer sum, it's S-U-M.
It is
U-M.
S-U-M is correct. There's also, like, I have some papers on my desk, S-O-M-E. But we want that word. S-U-M is the sum. That's the answer when you add. This would be a thing to write down somewhere if you've got a notebook, piece of paper, something handy. Tomorrow we're going to take your first quiz of the year. It'll be 9 points. One of the points is going to be, the answer will be the sum. I'll ask you the question, what's the answer called when you add? You'd write the word sum. Anybody a thought on the numbers that you go to add them together, what they're called in the problem? Watch an A.
Is it addends?
It is the addends. Can you spell addends?
A-D-D-E-N-S.
That's close. It's very close. Missed it by a letter. It's one of those things when you hear it, you don't always hear people say this letter, but it's there. Can anybody spell addends?
What? Addend?
People, when they say it, don't always say this one letter real clearly.
A-D-D-I-N-S.
Missed by 2 letters this time. Another shot at it.
Is it A-D-E-A-N-S?
Missed it by 3 letters. Getting colder. Hotter, colder, we're getting colder. Anybody else want to take a shot at addends?
Is it A-D-D-I-N-S?
Missed by 2 letters, that's what she said, I think. We're warmer. In the hotter, colder game, we got hotter. Our closest so far was A-D-D-E-N-S. That was the one I said missed by a letter.
Could it be A-D-D-A-N-S?
Colder. Yeah, we're short a letter in this one. That's the closest we've been, but we're short a letter.
A-D-D-E-N-S? E-N-D-S?
There we go. It ends with the mini word end. When you say addend, people don't always hit that D at the end. Like if I say addend, I kind of hit it sometimes. If you say addends, the D kind of, the way we talk, it's kind of like conglomerate some of those letters at the end. But the numbers you put together are called addends. That word ends with end. So that could be a little memory trick for you. End with end. Or next time we see that. When the book goes to tell you story problems, there's a lot of words that they could use that generally mean it's adding time. I'm going to teach you 2 specific words that stick with you through this class into the algebras and on through your life. Add is one of them, obviously, but I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to give you the point for that. If you see add, you know to add. Plus, you see plus, you know to add. Okay, that's not what I'm hunting. But if I told you a story that was a story about adding, it's likely I might use one of these 2 words. And you might have to guess for a little while to come up with this. Can anybody think of a word? If you read it in a story, this word probably would mean to add. And I'll tell you, total won't be it. Total can be add, subtract, multiply, or divide. But the total can be a variety of any math.
Altogether?
Altogether can sometimes be used for adding, I agree with that, but that could also be other things. Like I could make a subtracting story and end it with altogether. Altogether is kind of like total. It's kind of like a multi-purpose word. Anybody a word that really just kind of only can mean to add? Like I could start you with a kind of a story or something. I have 5 papers here. Now there's 8. You know, how could I have finished that story with some sort of words? I had 5 papers. Well, there's actually going to be 9. A word, if I were trying to make a story problem out of that, what could I, as a teacher, book writer kind of person, what kind of word could I use so that you knew you had 5 papers, blah, 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 and you come back with the answer 9?
Is it all?
So that's a multi-purpose word.
Gave.
That's a good word. That's not one of the 2 I'm hunting, but yeah, I would agree with that. Now we're in a good zone now.
I want to say it'd be like summing.
Well, we've got some already up there. I agree with some as an add word. There's 5 papers. Now there's 4. Starts with an M. It's a 4-letter word.
Many?
No. I had 5 papers, and now there's going to be 4. More. Yeah, more is pretty much always an add word. If you're getting more, that's going to make you have a situation where you're going to have to add. The other one is a verb. So I have 5 papers. I am going to blank the amount of papers on my desk by doing that. It's an I verb word.
Increase?
Increase. Increase is going to be an add word. You know, the temperature was 10 degrees, then it increased by 7. That's an add problem. You know, I had 15 cookies, my mom baked 12 more. That's an add problem. You know, so more, increase are generally code words that mean it's almost definitely time to add. So tomorrow, that's 4 of the 9 points. The first question that would cause this to happen, I'd say something like, when you add numbers together, what are they called? Add it. When you get an answer, what's it called? Sum. What are 2 words in a story that mean it's time to add? More, increase. I do spelling for half points, so if you spell add-in, kind of funny but kind of close, I'd give you half a point for add-in. You know, if you spell increase, kind of right but kind of funny, I'd give you half a point for increase. So if you're close, I'll give you half points, but full points you have to spell them right. But that's 4 of the 9 that have to do with adding. In a minute, we'll step over there, we'll do some subtracting today as well, but just today, for now, this second, anybody question about the 4 add word blank things? So it seemed like we had success adding. We went through that homework. Let's just make sure everybody's on the same page. So if I write you this question with 297 adding 46, you're probably mad. You probably would rather it not be written that way. How would you rather have me use my chalk and eraser to make this problem like different looking, to make it easier to add?
You'd put like one number on top of the other one.
Yeah. Does it matter which way you stack them?
Not really.
Not really, but most people tend to put the longest numbers on the top. That's okay. You do whatever you want with the stacks. So I'll do 297 on top. When I stack the 46 underneath, does it matter or not matter how you line it up?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. Where do you want the 46 to
You want the
fit?
46 to be under the 97.
You want the 46 under the 97. You want the numbers to line up on the right edge. Does anybody know the math word for how I can talk about these? These are both in the something or other. Anybody finish that thought?
And the ones?
Yeah, one's something. They're called something. But yeah, that's good enough. Anybody know the word that we could say after that? The one something?
Unit?
It's sometimes called the unit this also, but that second word is the same for both of those. It's a P word.
Place?
Place. These are the ones place or the units place. What are these? What place?
The 10.
That's the tens place. These are the hundreds place. You want the places to line up. Then you tend to work one direction or another. Which direction do you generally start from?
Right.
Start from the right. So 7 and 6, just yell.
13.
13. 13 can't fit. That's too long to fit in a place. So you only leave the 3 and you pop the 1 up there. What's that called when you go popping these numbers?
Carry over.
Carry it. We're gonna carry that first digit. 1 and 9 makes,
And
plus 4 is 14, so we only leave the 4, and then we call carrying the 1. Add that up, we got 343, that's fine. That's not the only way you could do that. Okay, there's a lot of ways you could do this other ways. Okay, if it's me personally, what I'm gonna do off of this is think, okay, 297 is close to 300. I'm short by 3. So I'm gonna use 3 of this to complete my 300. And if I use 3 of this to complete my 300, I've still got 43 on the table, so that's 343. If that makes sense to you, do that. Okay, that's fine. That's, I think, more now how people try to teach kids how to do it. But it's hard to explain, I think, like, that I regrouped all this stuff. If that makes sense, use it. If that doesn't make sense, it never fails. You have to, like, just memorize your math facts and pile through from right to left. There's nothing wrong with that. If you were born in 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that's like the only way they did that. Modern day people are trying more to like regroup. Some people are good at that, some people aren't. I don't know what to tell you. If you get 343, I'm happy. Okay, but there's not like, this is the only way a person can add those numbers. No, I mean, there's ways you can do it. There's tricks you could use. If you get 343, we're happy, but there's 2 schemes there. Question about the 343? So if I say I've got 247 more than 679, how is it that I would know that this is adding time?
it says more.
It says more, and that's one of the things we just learned about over here. More, you see more, go ahead, add, that's generally the way to go. I tend, since I'm an older person, to more start from the right and work to the left and add as I go. So, you know, this is gonna make 16, carry that, 12, carry that, 9, and then what did I tell you I hunt for half points? Dollar signs. Make sure there's dollar sign problems, we want to go dollar sign answers. Honestly, if this were me at home, just having to add these numbers up in my checkbook or something, I would also do this one by regrouping. But it's, I think, confusing to try to explain to people. You know, 2 and 6 is going to be 8 something, but these make more than $1, so I know it would be 9 something. This is 21 cents short of its dollar. If I take 21 from that, I'd get 26. But I think that's confusing to try to explain to people. Some of you probably were like, oh yeah, I get that. And other people are like, what are you talking about? Like, do what works for you. It doesn't really matter to me. 3 plus 5 compared to 5 plus 3. Anybody have an observation about what's going on if 3 plus 5 is done and 5 plus 3 is done?
They're both the same.
They're both the same. So there's a property that you might have had in other maths. I'm not going to make you memorize this name. Does anybody know the name of that property from other maths? You probably had this. It's called the commutative property. I don't know if that rings a bell. No? Shaking your heads more no's than yeses. Commutative property just means you can switch the order. It doesn't matter. If you want to add in any order, add in any order. Your most important notes for this column are the 4 I'm putting check marks on. That's the 4 answers for the quiz tomorrow. Question about add life before we cross the line.
Okay.
So subtracting, we're going to do this exact same game. Okay, so subtracting, there's going to be 2 words for what's in the problem. An answer. 2 words if you read them in a story that mean it's subtract time. So tomorrow for the quiz, we're going to hunt these 5 things to be determined. Anybody have a thought on any of them? Either the words for story time you might read that mean it's subtract time, like more and increase or something else. Answer, because it's not the sum, it's something else. Or these each have their own name. It's not like the add-ends. They're both add-ends. These are each individually named.
I think I might have one for the answer
Okay.
and one for the story time words.
Whatever you got.
I think for the answer is the subtracted.
That's going to be close to one of these, but not quite. But let's hang on to that one. What was your other one you got?
And so one in the story time one, is it minus?
Minus, I would agree with you. That's a little bit too obvious for me to do as a word. I'm going to go with a little bit like subtler of a word. You got something?
Less than?
Less is one, yeah. I'm gonna go with less. Why does it make sense that less would be a word over here?
Because
Because you're taking away numbers. and
That's
adding
true.
them.
I was gonna say for the other one, is it much?
No, we can use the how much can kind of be a word for adding, subtracting, multiply, divide. We could do that for a lot of different ones. Anybody a thought on why less could be easy to remember?
Because the answer is less than both of the top numbers.
That's true. I'm gonna hunt a certain relationship here. I'm gonna contrast this with this for a second. How could that world over there help us come up with less?
because one over there is more.
Okay, and so why is this less?
Because less is the opposite of more, and subtraction is the opposite of addition.
That's what I'm hunting. Subtracting and adding are opposites. So the words should be opposites. We'll go grammar for a second. What's that called? Words that are opposites, the fancy name for that.
Antonyms.
Antonyms. So we want to go antonyms. So if more became less, increase, just yell it out, should become
Decrease.
decrease. So adding, subtracting, opposites, the words are going to be opposites. These words most people don't know. This one people, as a group class, someone will usually know this one. Anybody want to chime in on those? This is a D word, if that helps.
Difference?
It is the difference. D-I-F-F. There's an E that you don't always hear humans say it when they say it, but it's there. And then R-E-N-C-E, difference. But people don't say difference. Those letters are there. People say difference. And when you talk fast, the E can kind of like disappear on you. But difference, there is an E between the F's and the R's. So difference is in there. We had a sub kind of word. That's going to be the bottom one in the problem. Anybody know a word that starts with sub? And again, if you know this, you're in the top probably 1% of Americans. Very few people are going to know these words.
The subtractor?
That's close.
Maybe subtracting.
That's close. I will tell you, just for spelling help, these words end in end. Just like add end ended in end, this ends in end, this ends in end. So lots of our words today end with end.
So is the bottom one subtracted?
That's all close. It's the sub, tra, and for some reason there's an H in there. I didn't invent the word, so I don't know why they didn't go subtract end. That probably would have helped us out. But they went sub, tra, end for some reason is that lower number. So this is the lower number, or if we write them side by side, that's the second number, that's the subtrahend. The top number, or the first number, starts with an M. Anybody know that one? It's called the minuend, M-I-N-U-E-N-D, and that, if you're copying the notes, don't leave the big space, I misspaced myself. That shouldn't be too bad to remember. What's that remind you of?
Minus?
Minus. So it looks kind of like the word minus, it just that it dropped the S. So minuend is the top one, subtrahend is the bottom one. Let me grab the paper and see exactly the question. These are the two people get confused because the order matters. So when I ask this with words, I'll talk about this one being subtracted from, because I have to explain some way with words which one I'm talking about. The number that we're subtracted from is the way I'll ask the question. That's the minuend. And then the other one, I'll call this the number that's being subtracted. So if I'm saying like 547 minus 58, we're subtracting from 547. 58 is the amount that's like disappearing from our life. So this is the minuend, this one is the subtrahend. If it helps you at all for another memory trick, they're in alphabetical order. So if we alphabetize these, minuend would come in the alphabet before subtrahend if we grabbed our dictionary. And in the problem, the minuend should come before the subtrahend in terms of being top, bottom, left, right, however we're reading those. Subtracting, is it like adding? Does it matter how you stack them up?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it does. So we want to stack them up, different way or same way?
Same way.
Same way. We're gonna go to the 58 under the 47, lined up on the right, so all the places line up. It's different in one sense. Adding, you can stack them up in any order. Subtracting, you have to stack them up in the order you're given. You can't just like, oh, I'm gonna switch the order around. No, it's not okay. 7 minus 8 is okay, or 7 minus 8 is a little bit of a problem?
It's a little bit of a problem because 7 is lower than 8. So,
Yeah, 7's too little for 8, so carrying is not the name of the game. What's the name of the game in subtract life?
You have to take 1 from the 4 and then give it to 7.
4 becomes a 3, 7 becomes a
Make it
17. What's that called?
Taking,
borrowing.
Borrowing usually. Take away maybe, yeah, borrowing is more what I'm used to hearing. And this is a fair trade because 1 number in the tens place is a fair trade for 10 numbers in the ones place. You know, there's a lot of fair trades in life. You could go to the store and give them $1 and them give you back 4 quarters. Like, that's fair. You didn't gain or lose. It's just an even deal. You know, you give somebody a $20 bill and they give you back a 5, a 10, and 5 ones. You know, it's fair. Everybody's the same. This is fair. We took a 10. We gained 10 ones. It's fair. No harm done. It just made the problem look a little different for convenience sake. So 17 minus 8 we can do. That's 9. 3 minus 5 is a problem. Okay, 3 is too little for 5. So borrow again. 5 turns into
4.
4. This becomes,
13.
and now we're good. 13 minus 5
8.
is 8. 4 in an empty space is a 4, and we're good. That's totally fine. 1950 America, that's how everybody did that. There was no other way to do that. You talk to your parents, that's probably what they're doing. You know, 2023 America, they want to take people and regroup. Me personally, no one ever taught me how to regroup. I was a kid, I just figured stuff out. I've been doing regrouping since I was little. I would do this one by regrouping. I would think 58 beats 47 by 11. So I'm going to go under 500s into 400s. I'm going to go under the hundreds by 11. That would then be at 89. That's how I would do that. Does everybody want to do that? Probably not. That's okay. If you like it, use it. If you don't like it, don't use it. Get 489, everybody's happy with 489. You're probably, looks like you guys, when you're nodding your heads or shaking your heads, you're more comfortable doing it like the 1950s way. Okay, that's fine. You want to regroup? You regroup. Public schools are teaching people more, I think, how to regroup these days. And there's pros and cons to that. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, but you need to come up with the answers. Question over there so far? This question deceives us, okay? When you see this, you're probably thinking, based on today's lesson, that you should add. And I said over there, 98% of the time you see more, it'll be time to add. I left myself a little wiggle room when I even introduced that idea to you. This is going to be a subtract question. We're going to want to subtract 679 minus 247 because I didn't just say more. I'm asking how much more. I'm not making a statement. I'm asking a question. Like over there, I made a statement. I have 4 papers. I got 5 more. There was no question to what I did. More meant add. But if I say how much more is this compared to that, I've turned more of a statement life into more of a question life. That's the opposite. And the opposite of adding is subtracting or vice versa. This is actually going to be a subtract. So you can't just blindly see more and add every time. You have to sometimes stop and think and feel it out. Sometimes the word more can make you subtract if they do it in the right way, oppositely. But subtracting here, good or borrow? Good makes
2.
2. Good or borrow?
Good.
Good makes 3. Good or borrow?
Yeah.
Good makes 4. I shouldn't just walk away. What do I need?
A decimal.
I need the
dollar
decimal
sign.
point and I need the dollar sign, and now we're happy. Over there we decided 3 plus 5, 5 plus 3, didn't matter, switch them up, do what you want. In this world, does it matter?
Yes.
Yes, these are not equal. You cannot switch the order. If I had more time, I would tease out of you the fact subtracting needs two words because the order matters. Adding, they can both be called addends because you switch them, no one cares. Okay, so you can get away with one name for two things. They're interchangeable. Subtracting, you can't do that. For these box questions, we had a little bit of trouble with the box questions, so let me just finish my thought before you run away. The box questions are always going to have to do with opposites. Just do the opposite. Just like a minute ago, I turned more into how much more and made us do the opposite. If I go add and do a box, you just have to do the opposite. An adding box question, you just need to subtract those numbers. This would be 11. So a subtracting box question, you just have to add. Add those numbers, you'd be 15. Anytime you see the boxy questions, just do the opposite. Any boxy mysteries to solve, just do the opposite. Assignment sheet, math, you want to write on there two things. One thing would be quiz tomorrow, 9-point quiz. Study the notes that you took. Second thing you want to write on there is page 4. Page 4 is going to be half adding problems, half subtracting problems. So like pay a little bit of attention to what it is and make sure you do the right thing. It's 50-50. So half add, half subtract. Try to remember to finish the assignment sheet, get the assignment sheet signed. If there's other stuff you didn't get signed, work on that too. The other thing you could work on, getting your book covered. You want to get the books covered for Tuesday.